If over the years your legs are getting very thin, you should know that this is not just an aesthetic problem. Everyone gets alarmed when we talk about heart failure, liver, kidney, or pancreatic failure. But who remembers muscle failure? This happens because until now we've seen muscle as just a locomotor organ, a way to get from point A to point B. But, as you know, it's a central organ for your longevity, with at least the same importance as the others mentioned. The good thing is muscle is a very responsive organ. It's not easy to improve your pancreatic or liver function once you've lost it, but you can improve your muscle quickly, even if you haven't done anything for the rest of your life. And with just a little more than 10 minutes a day and knowing which exercises are a priority. When you pass the threshold of 60 years old, you can easily add at least a decade of functionality and longevity to your life. Believe me, it's easier than you think. The bad part is, I can't do it for you. In today's video, I'm going to explain to you why working your leg muscles is essential to avoid suffering at this stage of life. And I'm going to give you the exercises that, if done regularly, will greatly improve your quality of life. When you turn 60 years old, and you may have noticed that I only said, leg muscles, why should you focus on your legs and glutes over other muscle groups? Well, basically two reasons. 40 to 50% of all the muscle mass in your body is in your legs. This is especially true for someone who isn't very muscular. And the second reason is that your lower limbs are what will give you quality of life. Walking, going up and down stairs, running, avoiding falls, managing the feeling of fatigue, all of this is the work of your legs. What happens when you lose muscle mass in your legs? Nothing good. Really, I'm telling you from the heart, nothing good happens, and this is seen every day in hospitals. First, and let's start with the least tangible. You lose the beneficial effect of myokines, molecules that are only produced by muscle and that regulate things like insulin sensitivity, your mood, your cognitive function, or even the well-being of your cardiovascular system. Second, you have a higher risk of falls and death. Let me remind you that the risk of dying after a hip fracture from a fall skyrockets in the years following that fall, mainly due to the resulting disability. And the risk of fracturing yourself when you fall is tremendously high, because if your muscles are weak, your bones will be too. Let's continue. Your amino acid reserves decrease. Muscle is the storage for amino acids in your body, and you use amino acids for thousands of processes. You develop anabolic resistance. It becomes harder and harder to build muscle, which turns into a vicious cycle that's hard to break. You're also less able to recover from any illness, including cancer. In short, you're more fragile and have less physiological reserve. That's a very important concept, and any unexpected event can put you in a difficult health situation. But then, Dr. Borja Bandera, shouldn't I train the upper body, the arms, the back, the shoulders, the abdomen? Yes, you should, but let's be realistic. If you've come to this video, you probably haven't done strength training throughout your life, or you haven't done it with any minimum regularity. Starting to train at this stage is very hard. That's why applying the Pareto principle and focusing on what's most important is what's going to bring you the most benefits. And I repeat, your legs are the most important thing you need to preserve. But, Dr. Borja Bandera, do I have to go to the gym to meet today's recommendations? Because I don't like the gym at all. You can do it at home with minimal equipment in the nearest park, or if you feel like it and are used to it, at the gym. But, Dr. Borja Bandera, do I have to gain a lot of muscle to see benefits? I can't see myself at my age gaining that much muscle. No? Look, the factor that most determines your well-being isn't even muscle mass. It's the functionality of that muscle mass, what your muscle can do. You don't have to be a bodybuilder or have bodybuilder arms. You just need to have strong muscles that work well. And Dr. Borja Bandera, I'm 83 years old and I watch your videos. Do these exercises work even if I'm over 80? Listen. Controlled trials have been conducted in populations over 90 years old, and clear improvements in strength and muscle mass have been seen in these subjects. Muscle is plastic throughout your entire life, your whole life. Now let's look at the exercises. First, wall isometric squat. The squat works almost the entire lower body globally. Quadriceps, glutes, hamstrings. That's why it's usually recommended as a basic exercise. However, if we don't have a good movement pattern and good mobility, which is actually very common at these ages, doing free squats or even guided squats can be a challenge and in some cases could be counterproductive. One way to add safety and technical simplicity is to do this wall variation. With your back against the wall and your knees at an angle of about 90 degrees. We will hold the position with our head up and feel the muscle contraction in the quadriceps. The higher you position yourself, the less demanding the exercise will be. The closer you are to 90 degrees, the more demanding it will be. In fact, many physical therapists consider this exercise an aspirin exercise for knee pain. Why? Well, because it can temporarily relieve knee pain. But Dr. Borja Bandera, I've trained my whole life. If I can, should I do guided squats or free weight squats? If you're fit enough to do them safely and without limiting pain, it's definitely a good idea for you to do them. However, as I was saying, at this age, we add limitations like reduced mobility, loss of proprioception, previous injuries, degenerative osteoarthritis, knee or hip prostheses, and so on. That's why you have to look for the simplest possible options, the simplest ones. The leg press is a perfectly valid gym alternative, and a lot of people like it too. Second exercise, lunge. The lunge is a great exercise. It's an ideal exercise that works the entire lower body. And it also adds something very important at this age, a component of balance and proprioception. You can add levels of difficulty. You can start with lunges, balancing with both arms to steady yourself and not fall. Make it more difficult by putting your hands on your hips, with your arms akimbo, or even with added weight, for example, 2 dumbbells, 1 on each side. You can work on them statically, without moving, or with dynamic steps that move you forward. Just make sure to always do them with focus and control over your movement. They are a very complete exercise that will work the major muscle groups of your lower body. Climbing stairs. Few movements are as functional as going up and down stairs, and your daily life often requires it. With a minimally trained eye, you can quickly assess the frailty of an older adult just by watching them go up or down a set of stairs. The simplest way to do it is by holding onto a handrail and taking a brief pause on each step. In fact, that's actually how many pre-frail or frail people naturally go up the stairs. Later, you can remove that handrail support and go up step by step, gradually reducing the pause. Then you can go up by skipping 1 step or even skipping 2 steps. If you want to add a lot more intensity, then use a bottle, jug, or small dumbbell in each hand. Going down is very important. Why? Because it involves a greater component of eccentric contraction. And you also have to train them. You can work on them in 1,000 ways. You can work for 30 seconds and rest for 30 seconds. Or you can set yourself a goal of floors and go at a demanding pace, but not an exhausting one. For example, going up and down 5 floors can be a very demanding workout for a pre-frail older adult. Remember, this video is not intended for athletes or people who run ultramarathons. Let's continue with heel raises. Your calves also need to be very strong. The gastrocnemius and the soleus, which together are called the triceps surae, are a very resilient muscle group, mainly involved in walking and running. That's why working them with heel raises will have a lot of carryover to your daily life. You can do 20 to 30 repetitions with one leg and then switch to the other. Adding a step will increase the intensity. And of course, adding weight and doing it on a step will increase the intensity even more. This plantar flexion can even be done while sitting after eating, with some studies showing that it can improve your glycemic control. If you remember, we explained it a few years ago in this video, jogging on uneven terrain. Lately, I've been able to complete a lot of trail running events, basically mountain races. To my delight, many of the participants and competitors are seniors, over 60, and a good percentage of them as well. To my delight, they beat me in pace and technical skill. And it makes me really happy. This makes me really happy because it's an activity that brings together everything we're seeing in this video. It stimulates the growth of new mitochondria, exposes you to nature, and also adds extra elements like proprioception and coordination. What makes trail running different from other sports? Well, look, when you're going uphill, you really work your lower body strength, using your own weight and the weight of your backpack, because you'll always be carrying a backpack. When you're going downhill, you work your cerebellum, reaction speed, coordination, proprioception, and it keeps you very aware to avoid falls, to avoid incidents. It's a particular kind of cardiovascular workout, obviously, but it's more interval-based than running on flat ground. It includes peaks of high intensity on the uphills and low or moderate intensity on the rest, on the flat sections and downhills. But, well, it may happen that you don't have the ability, availability, or willingness to run in this kind of environment, and that's okay. Alternatively, you can work on your balance and proprioception on challenging terrain. For example, jogging 100 meters on loose sand at the beach in a park, resting for a minute and repeating 5 times. or walking in tandem, or doing Tai Chi, or setting up a small obstacle course at home. Also, maintaining balance on one leg for 30 seconds, first with your eyes open, which is very easy, and then more difficult with your eyes closed, and we finish with the abdominal plank. Working on the abdominal muscles prevents injuries, improves the quality of movement in other activities, improves posture, and even, remember, optimizes the breathing process. Remember that the abdomen is part of the expiratory muscles. Going back to the most cost-efficient option, an exercise you can do anywhere, whether you're traveling, at home, on the street, it doesn't matter, is very simple and effective. Is it the abdominal plank? You can start by resting your knees on the floor or even using a chair or any support to reduce the intensity, and working for no more than 15 to 20 seconds, then gradually increasing the working time and eventually doing the exercise without knee support and on the floor. Finally, there are many ways to increase the intensity of these exercises as you start feeling stronger, more capable, more functional, and more alive. The main way is to add weight, and a very underrated method is using weighted vests, to which you can add more weight as your ability increases. And you can find them in thousands of places online. It's a convenient way to increase intensity and further strengthen your muscles. And I'll finish by recommending the method that I find the most practical and fun for doing these kinds of exercises. How are we going to do it? Well, in a circuit of about 15 to 20 minutes, where you go through all the exercises as many times as you can. With just one round of the circuit, you'll have achieved a lot compared to doing nothing. Keep a perceived effort of 6 to 7 out of 10. Ideally, you'll do at least 3 rounds of the circuit 3 times a week. It's an investment of less than an hour a week that will benefit you, I guarantee it. Years of quality life, years of enjoying your family, years of not feeling like a burden to them, years of keeping the doctor away. Now, I want to hear your story. How old are you and how do you keep yourself young mentally and physically? And if you're a professional and you're interested in longevity and anti-aging medicine, let me remind you that the second edition of the Kronos Method Masters program is available and you can sign up for the waiting list here. Alright then, a big hug, see you in the next video, and let's keep empowering.